Dear reader, this is another voice that time has almost silenced. A forgotten letter written by those who remain, so that the story of those who left does not fade away. Berlin, 1944. The air was no longer sky but smoke, thick, trembling and grey as ash. Beneath the city, in a bunker far from the sunlight, the war's last heartbeat pulsed through metal and concrete. When the Red Army entered the ruins, months later, they found the usual remnants: shattered typewriters, ration tins, a child's drawing pinned to a wall. But in one small recording room, still faintly smelling of oil and dust, they discovered something that made even the soldiers fall silent. It was a reel of audio tape, a simple spool labeled only Kinder März 1944. They brought it up, thinking it was propaganda. It was not. The recording begins with laughter, children's laughter, dozens of small voices echoing off stone, overlapping, playful. Then a woman's voice, soft, measured, almost motherly. She asks them to say their names. One by one, they do. You can hear the scratch of the microphone as a boy leans too close. You can hear the nervous giggle of a girl who forgets her line. Then the woman says, "Now we sing for the Führer." But the song that follows is not triumphant. It is a lullaby, a German cradle song, whispered by children who sound tired, frightened, and far away. And then silence. No one knows who they were. No one knows what happened after that recording. The bunker logs end that same day. So tell me, dear reader, if a voice can survive the fire and rubble, what does it want us to hear? I was the one who catalogued the tape. My name does not matter, only that I was 23, working with the Allied Records Division in 1945, and I had never heard anything like it. We were stationed in the ruins of Berlin, in what used to be a radio ministry. The floors were littered with broken glass, the walls caved inward from artillery fire. Still, the shelves were full of voices, boxes of wire reels and acetate discs, each marked with dates and codes. Some carried speeches, others static. But this one, Kinder März 1944, was different. It was small, almost private, as if someone had hidden it intentionally. The officer beside me said to throw it away. I couldn't. Something about the handwriting, rounded, careful, almost tender, told me this was not for propaganda. This was a trace of something human, left behind in a machine built for destruction. When I first threaded the reel onto the player, the hum of the motor trembled through the table. I remember holding my breath, expecting to hear commands, slogans, the cold rhythm of obedience. But instead, I heard the smallness of childhood, the murmur of children shifting in their seats, the squeak of shoes on concrete. And then, that voice, the woman, calm, practiced, but breaking ever so slightly on certain words. I did not know her name then, but I would spend the next 3 years trying to find it. The tape began with the sound of static, like rain on an empty street. At first, there was nothing but that grey hiss, the ghostly pulse of time itself. Then faintly, laughter, small, unguarded, alive. I remember how it startled me, hearing laughter from a war so near its end that even hope had been rationed. The voices belonged to children, maybe 8 or 9 years old. They laughed in bursts, in the way only children can, overlapping, tripping over one another. I turned up the volume, leaning closer. Someone, a woman, hushed them gently. "Bitte, Kinder, ruhig jetzt," she said. "Please, children, quiet now." Her tone was unlike the broadcasts we'd been cataloguing all week. Most Nazi recordings were clipped, metallic, drilled into rhythm and precision. But this one, her voice, carried warmth, even sorrow. You could hear it in the way she said their names. Anna, Karl, Lisel, Otto. Each name came with a pause, as though she wanted to remember them, each small person, each voice in that cold room. There were perhaps 20 of them. Their accents marked them as Berliners, though a few sounded as if they came from outside the city. Evacuees, perhaps, brought underground after the bombings began. Then she said, "Now we sing." The melody was Schlaf, Kindlein, Schlaf, a lullaby that every German mother once knew. But something about it was off. The tempo was too slow, too deliberate, as if each child had to find courage to keep singing. I closed my eyes, and for a moment it felt as though I stood in that bunker with them. The stale air, the low hum of the generator, the candlelight flickering on grey faces. Midway through the song, the sound shifted. A door creaked. Boots echoed in the distance. The children faltered. One whispered, "Ist es Zeit? Is it time?" The woman's voice trembled. "Noch ein Moment." Just a moment more. Then came a faint shuffle, a sigh, and silence. The reel ended there. I remember sitting back in my chair, feeling the weight of the air around me. Even the officer who had been writing in his ledger looked up and said nothing. The machine kept spinning, empty, until the tape's end flapped against the spool. That night, I couldn't sleep. The lullaby stayed with me. I kept hearing the line, "Schlaf, Kindlein, schlaf," looping endlessly. It was a song meant to bring peace, but on that tape, it felt like a farewell. In the weeks that followed, I played it again and again. I told myself it was to preserve the recording properly, to log every detail. But truthfully, I was listening for something else. For a clue, a whisper, anything that could tell me who they were, why they sang, and what became of them. It became more than a task, it became a promise. Those children had been buried once under the city's ruins. I would not let them be buried again under silence. I was the one who catalogued the tape. My name does not matter, only that I was 23, working with the Allied Records Division in 1945, and I had never heard anything like it. We were stationed in the ruins of Berlin, in what used to be a radio ministry. The floors were littered with broken glass, the walls caved inward from artillery fire. Still, the shelves were full of voices, boxes of wire reels and acetate discs, each marked with dates and codes. Some carried speeches, others static. But this one, Kinder März 1944, was different. It was small, almost private, as if someone had hidden it intentionally. The officer beside me said to throw it away. I couldn't. Something about the handwriting, rounded, careful, almost tender, told me this was not for propaganda. This was a trace of something human, left behind in a machine built for destruction. When I first threaded the reel onto the player, the hum of the motor trembled through the table. I remember holding my breath, expecting to hear commands, slogans, the cold rhythm of obedience. But instead, I heard the smallness of childhood, the murmur of children shifting in their seats, the squeak of shoes on concrete. And then that voice, the woman, calm, practiced, but breaking ever so slightly on certain words. I did not know her name then, but I would spend the next 3 years trying to find it. It began with the handwriting, rounded, looping letters written in blue ink, slightly faded, but careful, almost elegant. The label on the tape had been signed simply Fräulein E. Müller, a name so common that it was almost a disguise. There were hundreds of women in wartime Berlin with that name. Teachers, nurses, secretaries, widows. Still, it was a start. I began searching the personnel lists recovered from the Ministry of Propaganda. Many had been destroyed in the last months of the war, burned in basements or buried beneath collapsed buildings. But one partial register survived, water-stained and brittle. There it was, Ilse Miller, Educational Broadcast, 1943-44. The file said she'd been a music instructor before the war, employed to record programs for children, patriotic songs, folk tunes, lullabies to raise morale among the youth. Nothing unusual, except for a small note written in pencil beside her name. Transferred, March 1944, underground facility Tiergartenstraße, the same month as the recording. I went there the next day. The Tiergarten bunker was little more than a hollow shell, its entrances sealed, its walls blackened by fire. Inside, rubble lay thick as snow. I remember the smell of wet ash and rust. A Russian soldier helped me lift a slab of concrete to reveal a doorway, narrow, intact. Beneath it was a small room, maybe 4 meters wide, a single chair, a broken microphone. On the wall, a faint outline where something had once been pinned. perhaps the children's drawing later found upstairs. For a long while, I stood there, imagining her. Ilse Müller, a teacher who had been told to make children sing for the Reich. Did she know what awaited them afterward? Or did she, like so many others, cling to her small act of kindness, believing that if she could make them sing softly, gently, they might forget the fear pressing in from above? Later, I found fragments of her letters, retrieved from a soldier's footlocker. Most were ordinary, requests for extra food, updates about air raids. But one stood apart, dated March 5th, 1944. Today, the children were brave. I told them we were recording for the schools, that it was to show how strong they were, but I cannot tell them where they will go tomorrow. They are so small, some still clutch their dolls. The youngest, Anna, sang even as the others trembled. When the song was finished, one of the guards wept. He turned away so they would not see. After reading that letter, I sat alone for a long time. Outside, the city was being rebuilt, scaffolds rising where homes had crumbled, people sweeping glass from doorsteps. Yet beneath all that newness, I felt the weight of something unspoken, a grief too large to name. I sent the tape to London for preservation. I told myself it was enough, that I had done my duty. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind rattled the window panes of my quarters, I could almost hear the faint melody of that lullaby again. Not from the tape, but from memory. And always, just before the song ended, I heard her voice, whispering, "Noch ein Moment, just a moment more." H marked with dates and codes. Some carried speeches, others static. But this one, Kinder, März 1944, was different. It was small, almost private, as if someone had hidden it intentionally. By the winter of 1947, the rubble of Berlin had begun to thin. Streets were reopening, markets flickered back to life. Children, different ones, living ones, played in the ruins, their laughter cutting through the stillness, like birds returning after a long storm. And yet, everywhere I went, I heard echoes of that recording. The more I searched, the clearer it became that the tape was not merely a fragment of the past, but a kind of message, one that refused to fade. Every person I interviewed added another layer to it. An old janitor from the Tiergarten facility remembered a teacher who wore her hair in a loose braid and refused to wear her uniform armband. "Sie hat immer gesungen," he told me. "She was always singing." Another woman, a nurse from a nearby children's shelter, said she remembered hearing faint music beneath the ground during air raids. Slowly, the truth began to surface, not through documents, but through absence. The 20 children named on that tape, Anna, Karl, Liesel, Otto, never appeared again in school rosters after March 1944. Their records ended there, erased by some bureaucratic mercy or cruelty. No mention of transfer, no graves, no surviving relatives, only silence. It was as though the recording itself had become their memorial. One day, in a small archive near Potsdam, I found an envelope marked Unverified Education Ministry. Inside was a single sheet of carbon paper with faint purple text, a requisition form for transport of youth participants from a Berlin shelter to an unspecified camp. The date, March 7th, 1944. The signature, I. Müller. That night, I sat in my small rented room, staring at that signature until the ink blurred. I wanted to believe that she didn't know, that she thought they were being evacuated somewhere safer. But the human heart, when pressed by history, is rarely allowed the comfort of not knowing. I began to dream about her, about the woman with the trembling voice, standing before those children with the microphone in her hand, whispering to them to be brave. Perhaps she sang with them because she had no other gift left to give. Perhaps she pressed record, not as an order, but as an act of resistance, a way to preserve their voices when everything else was being erased. In one of my dreams, I saw her bending over the machine, the reel turning slowly, her face pale in the candlelight. She listens to the playback, eyes closed. The children's lullaby fills the room. Around her, soldiers wait, impatient. She doesn't move. The tape ends and she whispers, Noch ein Moment. A week later, I visited the ruins of a school in Moabit. On the wall of a surviving classroom, someone had scratched faint lines of chalk, names in a child's hand. Among them, Anna, Otto, Liesel, the same handwriting that once wrote on the bunker wall, perhaps. I placed my hand over the marks and felt the cold surface pulse faintly, as if time itself still breathed beneath it. I realized then that the echo of absence is not silence, it is persistence. Those voices had refused to vanish. They lingered in tape and dust, in chalk and static, in the spaces between walls. That night, I played the reel again. For the first time, I didn't take notes. I just listened. The hiss of the tape filled the room, and when the children began to sing, I felt something shift. Not sorrow, but recognition. As though, across the years, they had been waiting to be heard not as ghosts, but as children. When the song ended, the silence that followed was no longer empty. It was full of presence, of memory, of life that once was. I left Berlin in the spring of 1948. The snow was still melting, and the air carried that strange mix of soot and lilac that only comes to cities born again from ruins. The tape came with me, wrapped in brown paper, sealed inside a wooden box. Officially, it was to be transferred to the London archives for cultural documentation. Unofficially, I couldn't bear to leave it behind in a city that had already forgotten too much. For years, it sat on my desk. I moved between jobs, between countries, and still that small spool followed, a relic of voices I had never met yet somehow carried within me. Every time I opened a new file or heard the click of another reel, I thought of them. The 20 children, their teacher, and that final whisper, noch ein Moment. I didn't play it for anyone at first. I told myself it was too fragile. Truthfully, I feared what would happen if the sound escaped into the world. If those small voices, so pure and unguarded, were turned into exhibits or curiosities. They deserved better than that. It wasn't until 1952 that I met someone who convinced me otherwise. Her name was Margaret, an archivist from Vienna. She specialized in musicology, war-era broadcasts, folk songs, lost recordings. One evening, as the lamps hummed in her flat, I told her the story of the tape. She listened quietly, her hands folded in her lap. When I finished, she said only, "Then we must let them be heard, not as evidence but as remembrance." And so we did. We brought the reel to a small sound lab in London. The technician threaded it with reverence, as though handling a relic from another faith. When the machine began to turn, that familiar hiss filled the air. Then the laughter, the names, the song. But what struck me most was not the sound, it was Margaret's face. As the lullaby played, tears rolled silently down her cheeks. When it ended, she said, "Do you hear it?" The way they pause before the final verse, as if waiting for someone to tell them it's safe to stop. Yes, I heard it, and for the first time, I understood. The recording was not just a farewell, it was a moment suspended, a plea for time to hold still. In 1954, the British Museum's War Memory Archive accepted the reel. It rests now in a temperature-controlled room, catalogued as Children's Recording, Berlin Bunker, March 1944. But I visit it sometimes when the world feels too loud. They keep a listening station, quiet and dimly lit, where one can sit with headphones and hear the past whisper back. Every visitor reacts differently. Some remove the headphones halfway through, unable to continue. Others close their eyes, swaying slightly as though the lullaby belongs to their own childhood. But every person leaves changed, softened, aware of something wordless. Last winter, I watched a young boy listen to it for the first time. He couldn't have been older than 10. When the song ended, he asked, "Where are they now?" No one answered. There was nothing to say. Yet his question lingered, echoing softly through the gallery. And in that silence, I realized this is what remains. Not ruins, not tape, not dust, but questions that refuse to die. The past doesn't vanish, dear reader. It hums beneath the floorboards, murmurs through the static, waits in the hush between breaths. Sometimes it reaches us in the form of laughter trapped on magnetic film. or a name whispered into a microphone 70 years ago. And when we listen, truly listen, those lost voices rise again, not to haunt, but to remind us that even in the darkest of times, someone still tried to sing. The world has turned many times since that recording was made. Cities rebuilt, languages softened, and the children of new generations play where old ruins once stood. But still, in quiet rooms and museums, the tape spins. It whispers that even among the engines of war, someone chose to cradle a melody, to give frightened children a song instead of silence. Perhaps that is all remembrance is. A quiet defiance, a refusal to let the last note fade. So, if you ever hear laughter in a recording older than memory, listen closely. It may not be ghosts you hear, but echoes asking for one more moment. Thank you for listening, dear reader. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe. Not for me, but for the voices that still wait to be heard.